In November 1970, the remains of an unidentified woman were discovered in a remote valley outside Bergen, Norway. She had no identification with her. Inside her bags, police found wigs, foreign currency, maps, and a notebook containing what appeared to be coded entries. But when they tried to identify her, the case became even stranger. Some investigators began to wonder whether she had been involved in espionage. So who was the Isdal Woman, and what really happened to her? On November 29, 1970, a man and his 2 young daughters were walking through Isdalen, a valley in the hills near Mount Ulriken, just outside the Norwegian city of Bergen, when they discovered the badly burned remains of a woman. Much of her clothing had been damaged by fire, and visual identification was extremely difficult. Police began searching the area around her and found a number of personal belongings, including jewelry, a watch, an umbrella, bottles, clothing, and what appeared to be a damaged plastic passport holder. Burned paper was also found around the scene, and a fur hat discovered beneath the woman was later reported to have traces of petrol. But none of these objects gave investigators the one thing they needed most: a name. Identifying labels and markings had been removed from many of the items associated with the woman. There was no surviving passport or other document that could immediately tell police who she was or where she had come from. The autopsy provided more information about how she died, but it did little to explain why. Investigators found a very large amount of a powerful sleeping medication in her system and stomach. Reports from the original investigation have generally placed the amount she consumed at somewhere between 50 and 70 tablets. Tests also found evidence that she had been breathing while the fire was still burning, indicating that she was still alive during at least part of the fire. The official cause of death was attributed to a combination of sleeping medication and the effects of smoke inhalation during the fire. A bruise was also recorded on her neck, although the origin of that injury was never established with certainty and could not by itself prove that another person was responsible for what happened to her. Then, 3 days after the woman were discovered, investigators found 2 suitcases connected to the unidentified woman were located at Bergen railway station. Inside them, police found clothing and shoes, cosmetics, wigs, maps and travel timetables, several different currencies, and pairs of glasses. Money had even been hidden inside the lining of one of the suitcases. Partial fingerprints found on a pair of sunglasses helped connect the luggage to the unidentified woman. But once again, investigators noticed the same disturbing pattern. Labels and identifying information had been removed from many of her possessions. Even information that could potentially have led investigators to a shop, manufacturer, or doctor had reportedly been scratched away or altered. Whether the woman herself had done this or someone else had done it remains unknown. But whoever she was, tracing her identity through her possessions had been made very difficult. Among the belongings was a small notebook containing combinations of letters and numbers that initially looked like some kind of code. It sounds like the perfect detail for a Cold War spy story. Investigators were able to interpret much of the notebook as a record of dates and places connected to the woman's travels, and those travels opened a new mystery. By comparing the notebook with hotel registration records, police began reconstructing the movements of a woman who had apparently been traveling around Norway and elsewhere in Europe under multiple identities. She had used names including Genevieve Lancière, Claudia Tielt, Claudia Nielsen, Alexia Zarn Marquez, Vera Jarley, Femela Lork, and Elizabeth Lean Hauer. The personal information attached to those identities did not lead investigators to the real woman. Addresses and other details she provided were false or could not be connected to her actual identity. Hotel records showed that she had moved between cities including Oslo, Bergen, Stavanger, and Trondheim, and her reconstructed travels also extended beyond Norway. Witnesses who encountered her gave descriptions that were not always identical, but hotel employees generally remembered a well-dressed, serious woman who kept largely to herself. Some recalled her speaking German, while others reported Flemish or limited English. At different hotels, she presented herself using different identities, and she was also remembered changing rooms after checking in. The aliases are documented through hotel registration records, but the often repeated claim that police actually recovered a collection of false passports is misleading. No such passports were found with her luggage. A damaged passport cover was reportedly recovered near the remains, and investigators assume she must have had documents capable of supporting at least some of the identities she used while traveling. Whatever those documents were, they disappeared with her real name. Her last confirmed hotel stay was at Hotel Hordeheimen in Bergen. She checked out on November 23, 1970, 6 days before she were discovered. Staff remembered her paying in cash and requesting a taxi. After that, the timeline becomes much less certain. Investigators were never able to reconstruct with confidence exactly where she went between leaving the hotel and ending up in Isdalen. Norwegian police conducted an extensive investigation and circulated information about the woman internationally, but no confirmed family member, friend, or acquaintance came forward who could establish her identity. Eventually, authorities concluded that she had most likely taken her own life. There was certainly evidence that could support that conclusion. She had consumed a very large quantity of sleeping medication, and investigators could not establish clear evidence that someone else had been responsible for what happened to her. But why had she spent months traveling under false identities? And why, after the case became international news, did no one convincingly identify her? This is where the theory that the Isdal Woman was involved in espionage begins. The historical context makes the idea easy to understand. The year was 1970, at the height of the Cold War. Norway was a member of NATO and shared a border with the Soviet Union, making the country strategically important to both Western and Eastern intelligence services. We know that espionage operations took place in and around Norway during the Cold War. That fact alone, however, does not mean the Isdal Woman was a spy. The evidence usually cited in support of the theory is circumstantial. Her multiple aliases, international travel, wigs, coded travel notes, foreign currency, and the apparent effort to prevent her possessions from revealing her identity. No government has publicly confirmed that she was one of its agents. No handler or intelligence contact has ever been definitively identified, and no specific mission has been established. Some versions of the story go further and claim that the woman's movements corresponded with secret Norwegian military tests, particularly tests connected to the Penguin anti-ship missile. The woman may have been involved in criminal activity rather than intelligence work, or she may have been hiding from someone. She may have had personal reasons for traveling under different names that had nothing to do with either crime or espionage. It is even possible that the mystery surrounding her identity and the circumstances of what happened to her are two separate problems that have become connected in the public imagination. And without knowing who the woman was, it is extremely difficult to understand why she lived the way she did. Then modern forensic science offered investigators another opportunity. The woman's teeth and jaw had been preserved after the original autopsy, allowing them to be examined decades later using techniques that did not exist in 1971. Modern isotope analysis looked at chemical signatures preserved in her teeth, which can provide clues about the geographical environment in which a person spent different stages of childhood. The results suggested that she may have been born around 1930, possibly in or near southeastern Germany, and that she may later have lived farther west, potentially around the French-German border region. These findings changed earlier assumptions about her possible age and background. DNA analysis has also been pursued, but as of 2026, no publicly confirmed match has identified her. If the official conclusion was correct, and she had taken her own life, we still do not know why she spent the months before her final days moving through Europe under false identities, or why so much effort appears to have been made to conceal where her possessions came from. If someone else was responsible for what happened to her, we do not know who that person was, or what their motive may have been. And if she really was involved in espionage, more than 50 years have passed without any intelligence service publicly acknowledging who she was or what she was doing in Norway. Each theory explains part of the mystery, but none explains it completely. In February 1971, the unidentified woman was buried in Bergen. She was placed in a zinc coffin, a decision intended to make future examination of her remains possible, if new evidence ever emerged. More than 50 years later, the woman found in Isdalen still has no confirmed name. What do you think about this case? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.